If you have a sibling, you would know what it is to equally love and hate someone and do it simultaneously. Growing up, we learn to share, we learn to care, and in the process, we become a little less selfish. Hello everyone, I am Nikita Sibling and welcome to today's segment of Gitanjali T Pod. Today is dedicated to the World Sibling Day, and who better to do it with than the two powerhouse dynamos of Hyderabad, Mr. Karan and Mrs. Madhavi Chandra, Managing Director and Associate Director of Gitanjali Group of Schools. Welcome sir, welcome Madhavi. You have grown up in the same house and you have seen each other through thick and thin. You've fought, you have made up, and then you know each other's quirks pretty well. So what I want to know is, how do you bring that bond that was there as a sibling into your work life, and how do you balance it?
What I would say is that we have been able to divide sort of our responsibilities quite clearly, and it's a fairly clear division in what she handles and what I handle. And so I think to a large extent we don't, when there are things that overlap, of course, that we talk and we discuss those things and come up to it. But I think in a professional manner, we know actually where the boundaries are and we kind of work within those boundaries. So I think professionally, that's what it is. I mean, personally, sometimes, those boundaries crisscross. And even when we're at home or something, we'll be talking about school and things. And our children bear the brunt of that because they object to those kind of things.
Yeah.
But we try to keep that out as much as possible.
Ma'am.
So I think what helps us work together is basically, like you said, we grew up together. So we understand each other better too. So, and the core value system is the same. So I think that helps. So, because we're on the same page too, very often. So when we discuss things, there's not too many things we disagree on, because I find most of the time, if there's a question that we need to debate and come to a conclusion, we are able to come to the same answer much easier, maybe because, the intrinsic value is the same.
Yeah.
So that helps.
Your care, I think, for the same institution and the same goal, and of course, as sir said, the respect for boundaries definitely makes you successful. So, Gitanjali Senior School was started by your parents, and that generation is definitely different from the way we work, the way we do things. And of course, it has been handed down with, I'm sure, with certain expectations from parents, from public. How do you handle that thing? How do you bring your own personalities into taking this step forward and taking this to a new height?
So, I think, to me personally, I kind of grew up with the school. I used to study right across the road. So, before school and after school, I was here in Gitanjali when the school started. So, I've kind of grown up seeing the school and seeing how Mr. and Mrs. Karan handle things. So, it's just been imbibed quite naturally. And coming to being involved with the school, I remember there was a time when I was much younger and I said I don't want to be a part of the school. And then when my husband was in Gulbarga doing his MD, I moved there with him. And I went to a school, I wanted to be a counselor at that time. So I went to the school and managed to get myself a job as a counselor also. But there was no takers. There was nobody who was ready to come and get counseling done. With difficulty, I found one student. So, and then because I had nothing to do, I started substituting in classes, going into class, and then there was a teacher going on leave, so for a few months I taught social studies. So that again came very naturally, and then I realized that I enjoy being with children, being in the classroom and interaction thing. So it was a very organic journey. I don't think there was any special training or any special thought given into training us. It just happened very naturally.
So with you, sir, we know you had experience in a different field.
Yeah.
You worked. So what was the transition like from there to here?
So it was completely different. I mean, I was in the United States and I was working as an engineer. My background is in engineering, and for a long time, I think Mrs. Karan, Mr. Karan were asking me to come back and to help out with the school, because there was, I have also seen it grow. I think as children, the school was always a part of our lives, because when they started the school, it was their complete life, and it was 24/7. So at home, all the time, the discussions were about things going on in school, what's happening, what's not happening, and problems that came up during the day and their solutions. So, I mean, we've seen it growing up. But I think for a large part of my journey diverged. I worked, in the corporate world as an engineer, several MNCs, and I think that has also helped me a lot. Because I've seen how organizations function, the systems that are in place, the kind of values that you need to have in place, professional ways of running things. And I think that has helped me a lot in streamlining a lot of our processes, putting in place systems here. So I think that is
Brought all the difference.
That has brought the difference from my side in my journey.
Actually, my next question was going to be something similar.
Mm-hmm.
What I wanted to know is, you've had now, ma'am has had a longer experience with working in a school, but you have had now considerable experience of running Gitanjali. If one signature management style you had to choose that has helped you a lot in the past few years, what would it be, and how much do you credit that style for your success?
So I don't know if I can say there is a particular style of management. I think what it is that, in the end, you have to keep in mind what you are doing and why you're doing it and for what purpose. So I think the ultimate purpose is always what is in mind, and you're always doing this for the stakeholders, which is, our teachers, our children, our parents, and they are the ones that make up the school. And, whatever we do, we need to make sure that it's going to benefit them in some way or the other. And I think I always try to keep that in mind, and all decisions and processes have to align with that goal in mind.
So, I would say that since I'm dealing more with people, that is the teachers, the leaders, and the school. Mm-hmm. So I would say that it's different when you deal with people in person as compared to when you're working professionally. So I think that connect is what makes a difference in the interactions that we have and the quality that we are able to maintain, and the ability to let our vision and what we want to go to trickle down. So I think that comes through that connect and that understanding of what we want eventually. So when we connect with people, I think that makes a huge difference.
Agree, absolutely. And that is what I think is one of the driving forces behind Gitanjali, is the connect that Mrs. Karan and Mr. Jay Karan and you have with your colleagues, your teachers, your staff, even children. If we ask children, if they see, any of the directors moving in the corridors, they actually feel that yes, they have an affection and connect with all of you. I think with this, we would move towards an audience question.
Hello, I'm Madhavi Chandra Saeed. I am Madhavi and Jay's cousin. We grew up together. I am an artist and an interior designer. My firm is based out of Boston, Massachusetts, here in the US. We grew up together. They say your first friends, your first besties are your siblings and your cousins. And it's definitely stayed true for me. I am just delighted to be a part of this podcast. So thank you for inviting me. I have one question for Madhavi and Jay. What is your top favorite memory of the each of you? You both have to share one memory of each of you growing up, like as children. I'm sure you have tons, but I want that one top favorite memory. And then also, we had tons of fun growing up. We don't need a reason to giggle and laugh, even now, But what's the one thing that makes you guys go in splits of laughter every time we get together? Or the one memory you can think of and you can share that just makes us laugh all the time? I can't wait to hear your answers.
Okay. So I think growing up we had a great childhood. There are just so many memories, it's hard to pick one. But I think what I remember the most about growing up with Jay is that, I grew up in a house with 3 boys. So like my brothers and my cousin were there. So they were always climbing trees and going over the rocks and breaking fruit and things like that. And I was the youngest. So I was always trying to keep up with them. And the other 2 would always go do their own thing, whereas Jay would make that effort to help out and, to maybe, if we were climbing a pipe, he'd say, okay, keep your foot here and then come there and then go there. So he was always very considerate. And I think that continues to today, that if I have to take a decision, I probably would consult him because I know I'll get honest feedback and genuine feedback. So I think that's what is really special about the connect we share. And coming to all of us as cousins, I think we had a lot of fun growing up at my grandfather's house. So lots of memories there, whether it's the dark room that, we used to play or, just so many things, the summers we spent there. So every time we talk about our childhood at my Nana's house, we are always laughing. So, whenever we meet, we don't need an excuse to laugh. It could be any random person we meet and we can laugh for hours about it. So that's the kind of bond we share. So
I think one memory I have of that involves Bani and Madhavi is that, they were both younger than us. So they would play this one game where they would hold each other's hand and swing it back and forth and sing some song, elephant, or something like that. It was a very silly memory, but they would play that. And then, regarding laughing.
I also remember that phantom thing. They had this phantom rock which, we as kids couldn't climb. So all the older cousins would climb up and we were left behind and they'd say, there's a phantom's cave behind the rock. And Vani and me growing up were always so envious of them.
Even now, I think when we get together, we just, we laugh at silly things. I mean, jokes that nobody else gets. Our children say, you guys are so weird. You just laugh at something random that's nonsensical. So that's just how we are.
Hi, I'm Sridat. I'm a 2016 pass out from Gitanjali Senior School. I studied economics in my undergrad. I worked as an analyst with the economist group before I transitioned into my current role, which is in my family business. We're into the F&B industry. So it's my sister and I mostly running operations with my father at the helm of things. So my question to the panel is around feedback and constructive criticism. I ask this question because it's something that I struggle with every day. This is something that I need to work on for a long time to come, because giving feedback and receiving feedback is something that is very different in an informal setting like a family business as opposed to working in the corporate industry, because you don't know them, you're just colleagues. But in this current role, I'm working with my family and I have to come back to the same house as my colleagues. So my question is, how do you approach feedback? How do you approach constructive criticism or even harsh criticism for that matter? And is there a set approach you both have, or an understanding rather, on how to discuss and maneuver through these tough conversations. So thank you for your time. That's my question.
As far as criticism and feedback go, I feel there are two different aspects. As far as disagreements and that we have between each other, or there's an issue where we feel that needs more further discussion, we can always open up that discussion further. We have the luxury of having Mrs. Karan with all her years of experience with us, and also Mr. Karan. We also have on our board Dr. Naval, who's a medical professional. He's a professor at NIMS, and Mrs. Natasha as well. So we have a lot that we can rely on to sort of help us get through these kind of things. And I think in terms of feedback, ultimately we are responsible for the organization. So we need to get feedback from all aspects of the organization. We're trying to put in place and systems to do that. We have feedback that we get from parents, we have feedback that we get from students, we get feedback from teachers, and from each other as well. So we get a lot of feedback, and then ultimately we have to make sure that all of these stakeholders are actually happy and that we are doing what we set out to do, because that is the ultimate test of what we are doing here.
Right. And also to add to what Jay said is that we also have something called a management committee meetings, which we have ever so often whenever there's things to discuss. So we try and bring up the important issues during that time, averse to talking about it when we meet personally or when we are, just discussing it. And we try to take our important decisions when we are in school. So we don't take our work home, and it doesn't affect our personal relationship. So when we meet in the evenings and all, we might be talking about school, but it's not about the serious issues or the important decisions that need to be taken. I mean, it could be more in general. But the important decisions, we try to keep it more formal, in a more formal environment, so you don't connect both.
Hello everyone, I'm Sanchita. I'm back with a fun segment, and here we go with some mindless mirth and witty time. Are you set, ma'am? Are you set, sir?
Sure.
So I'll first go ahead with some. Of course, we'll have a lot of weird and silly questions also. So I'm sure your answers would be witty and quirky as possible.
Okay, we'll try.
Okay. So what's the funniest thing that has ever happened to both of you while working together?
Funniest thing happened at work.
At work, while working together?
I think there's times we always laugh at something, somebody will come with maybe a very silly question or something, and then we just laugh at it, then it's an obvious kind of
so the eye contact, like, okay,
Yeah, we understand. Yes, eye contact is enough to get us, like, and I have to control our laughter and be very polite, but...
Okay. So moving on, if you were a TV show, what kind of show would it be, and what would it be called?
I would probably do a reality show, maybe.
I don't think I'm one for a reality show, but...
So what would it be called?
Madness with Madhavi.
And it would be on lifestyle or anything specific, reality?
It would be on maybe fun things to do.
As fun as you can.
Yeah.
As funny you can.
Travel. I love to travel, so maybe a bit of travel.
Maybe I would do a travel or food or something like that. I think those are all kind of passions.
Food, anytime.
Yes.
If you could trade roles for a day, what would you want to do?
I don't think I would want to trade roles, actually.
Trade roles with each other, you mean with anybody?
Anybody.
Okay. Yes.
Anything, or if you really want to think, like, in the family only we would like to trade the roles.
No, I don't think I'd want to trade roles.
In what we do, because I don't think I could do what he does either. So our roles are very, good that way.
But otherwise,
if
not
I
a
could,
serious character, please.
any other profession I could take up. Okay. So maybe I would run a restaurant, maybe because I cook well,
So
and I try different recipes, and I think I have a
fine dining.
no, I enjoy good food and good taste. So whenever we go out, we're very critical about the food and the ingredients and the freshness. So
Okay.
maybe something to do with food.
Okay.
Yeah, probably a travel and a food show. I mean, there's shows where they travel to different places, try different foods.
So not only
they
India,
visit
you
the
might
sites,
go to
anywhere.
Okay.
I mean, so I think that type of a show would be that's what would be a good role for me. I'd love to do that.
So this was our warm-up session. So
Right.
now we get into a rapid-fire session.
Okay.
Answers.
More quickly
More
than this.
quick can answer, yes. Who is the most likely to arrive late at a meeting?
It's the obvious choice. Yeah.
Who is the best at problem solving?
I think that's
both
makes.
actually have different areas where we can probably solve problems.
Yeah, so we always like consult each other where we are stuck. So I think both of us.
Okay. So who is the most likely to get sidetracked during a conversation?
No, I think yes.
To some extent, though, I'm fairly focused. I would say Mrs.
Mrs. Karan, yes. I think when you're having a meeting, with her there,
But
then I'm always the one who
among the
tries to
both
bring
of us,
everyone
probably
back to focus.
Okay.
yeah.
Who's the most tech savvy? Okay. Who's best at networking?
Madhavi, I think.
To some extent,
Yes.
More social and
more social,
I think
a lot more
Madhavi.
groups and friends and partying and things
Who's the
like that.
most detail oriented?
I think both of us.
Yeah, we're both detail oriented, maybe in different ways.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, but we are particular about things because I know like people notice whenever I come and sit on my table, I organize things and put them in place. So I notice he's also particular about things like that, where things are and how they're organized and put. And so I think that organizational skills run in us.
So my next question is irrelevant here, which was who is the messiest or most disorganized?
I don't know. Maybe we are messy or
I
disorganized.
don't think
no.
so. Yeah, I think we just imbibe that.
To some extent, maybe more because I have clothes piling up which need to go into the cupboard.
Yes.
Yes, those. So.
But I think that's a women thing. I mean,
Yeah.
I see that at home as well. My clothes usually go into the cupboard faster than
I think it's because they have lesser clothes as men and we have more clothes as we also.
Yeah, probably.
We have variety also.
Yeah, so a lot more to organize.
Who's the most likely to take a risk? Chalo karte hain, nahi, let us do
both.
it.
I think both.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
In different ways. I think, we always want to calculate your options
It's
and
never that
before
chalo
taking a
karte
risk.
hain, dekha jayega, not that way.
No, I
You
don't
mean
think I've never done
professionally
that.
or personally? That would matter.
Okay.
So if it's professionally, maybe a more calculated risk. If it's personally, then maybe more on the spur of the moment.
So I think depends on how high the stake is. No, I mean if it's a very low stake, then you take a risk like that. But if it's a high stake, then you have to think about it.
So we move on. Another segment we are introducing here,
Okay.
since it's a sibling segment also. So how much better you know each other.
Okay.
Okay, right.
So
That's interesting.
Yeah. It will be a game round again, and we would go back to our school days, of course. So it will be from your school memories,
Okay.
right? Since you're running a school, group of schools, and so many schools under your umbrella. So your school days now will come
Okay.
back, and how much do you know about each other? So, and again, it's rapid fire. Please do not take too much time. So,
Okay, we'll try and
so
do
I'll
this
start
fast.
with you.
Okay.
Who was ma'am's best friend in school?
Shayada auntie?
Not mom.
Your best friend.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. She had a group of 3 or 4 friends. It was Archana, Nidhi, Sweta.
So we give him
Anand,
points.
and,
Yes, he gets points for
Shata.
that.
Yeah. What was her favorite subject? One sir, please.
I don't really know.
Can't give him the point, ma'am.
The English, I think.
Okay.
I enjoy English a lot. Yeah. I love to read, so.
Okay. What was ma'am's favorite food in the lunchbox?
I think curd rice maybe.
So we didn't have a lunchbox because we used to get lunch at school
What
But I ate a lot of curd rice growing up. Yeah, that was my go-to
Okay,
so he's right. Yeah.
Which house did she belong to in school?
Okay, right.
Yes.
That was a yes, but
Yeah.
Good. Moving on, ma'am, to you now. For sir, name any one class teacher of sir's.
Kirpan?
yeah,
I think,
right.
yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay. What was sir's least liked subject?
Least like was PE.
Probably. Yeah, probably. Actually.
Okay. Sir's favorite childhood toy.
Oh, that's a tough one. I know this story where, he liked variety. I mean, I don't think there was one toy in particular that he had as a favorite.
Okay.
But when he was a baby and he wouldn't eat, Mrs. Karan would get like this tub and, create a lot of foam, and then he would play with the foam while she just fed him really fast.
Okay.
But I don't remember one.
Yeah, I don't think I had a
Yeah.
favorite toy like that.
But did you ever play with a Beyblade? Even
I
it
don't
came
know.
pretty
No,
late.
no,
Yes,
no.
tops, of course, yeah.
Yeah, tops, but
Better
we
version
didn't have
of-
Beyblades in our...
No,
we didn't have
but
Beyblades.
yeah, it
We-
came pretty late, but when you see, it was a top and you wanted to play with it, so we
Yeah,
did
tops we played, marbles we played, gilli danda, those kind of games.
Yeah, those 5 stones they used to
ancient
play.
games.
Which house did Sir belong to?
So I'm not sure if they had houses in Kodak, but in HPS I think you were in green.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was on orange.
Orange in Kodak, okay.
So, orange there and green here. So,
Yeah.
okay, fine.
So half the answer.
Half a point.
So, you get half a point and you get one less
So is
point.
there a hamper or something that is like for this round?
We did
need to be more competitive.
because we thought of making a hamper of all lollipops and baking. So that will just come to you very soon. Of course. Though I had a tiebreaker, I kept myself ready. See, if all there is a
So who wins
tiebreaker. Now, of course, ma'am wins because 3.5 and you are only 3. So
Okay, then half a point, half a point.
point, ma'am does the win.
Congratulations.
But to end it, from the school days, which was your favorite sport?
So I think I wasn't very inclined towards sports.
What sport you played?
So we
Those hopscotch and all those weird.
So we used to play those, the hopscotch kind of a thing, and the 5 stones which we played with our hands, and those kind of things we used to do a lot of. And we used to play the ring a lot for some reason when we were in school. We used to do a lot of ring. So those are
It
the
was not
sports.
a flying
Or a throw ball,
a ring very
throw ball. So these are the sports I remember playing in school.
How about you, sir?
So I like she said, PE was not my favorite subject because I didn't like it. When I would be the last to get selected into a team, and so because I was not very good at sports. So, but I think now I do a lot of running and things like that. So I think I enjoy that. I enjoy things like that.
Do you go for marathons and all?
I have done half marathon.
Half marathon.
Yes.
Okay. So next marathon we meet. So here we wind up our session for the day with our siblings, the stalwarts of Gitanjali, the torchbearers of Gitanjali Group of Schools. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. Had really good time with you, both of you. And here we are. We end the segment for the day. We wish to see you all again. Be with us always, Gitanjalians. Thank you so much. Namaste, Gitanjali.